What's going on YouTube? Chris here. I want to bring you all an update today of Bitcoin. Right now we're looking at 9,285. We're down 0.14%. And what I wanted to look at and talk about with you guys here today was this sustained uptrend. So you know I like to really look at trends and pay attention to trends. And what we're going to talk about is our inverted head and shoulder that potentially could have been our bottoming pattern, and now our uptrend that we've been in here all of 2020. So it's important that this continues to keep moving. And now what's happening is we're getting to one of those areas where we need a bounce. And I'm going to get into all that, guys. If you get some from these videos, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Remember, I'm not your financial advisor, just a guy here, self-taught for a few years, trying to do the best that I can. So we're going to dig into all this. And what I wanted to do was look at this area for us, this 50 moving average on the 4-hour time frame. Now typically as we go back through the data on Bitcoin here, for the most part, when you're in a downtrend, this 50 moving average on the 4-hour is going to act as overhead resistance for us. And as we're making a nice uptrend, you can see it acting as support. And what I wanted to point out here were some areas, guys, just like this. After we had this really strong move up, we retraced back to that 50, and then we found support. Volume stepped in, and we continued that next move to the upside, and we made a higher high. And what's been happening is we're still making our higher highs and higher lows. So this is an area now that we're back testing this 50. I would want it to see us get a bounce off of, or at least support, and that's at $9,200. If that area does not hold, we have our previous resistance that should become support, and that's at $9,139. Now beyond that, what I would look at is this green trend line here. So say we lose this 50, we lose the $9,100, we'll call it, our previous resistance or previous high until we made our next higher high. If we lose that area of support, I would look down to this trend line here where we've had a couple bounces off of. So if we get into this area, it would most likely be around $8,771 that we would want to support. We would want to stay up above, guys, and then ultimately on the 4-hour time frame, this 200 moving average on the 4-hour. But in my opinion, this area right here is the hot spot. So we'll call from $8,700 up to around that $9,300 is the range that we really need to stay up above, because right now what's been happening is we're moving sideways and we're consolidating. And that's fine, because each time we make a push up, the market needs to breathe, and you see that retracement, another push up. You're either going to move sideways or you're going to have that retracement so that the market can breathe, and then you're going to be able to make that next move up. So now we've been consolidating sideways since about, we'll call it January 29th, 2020. We've been moving sideways, just back and forth, really chopping, because we're waiting to see if we're going to get that next leg up. And if we get that next leg up, I want to see us get up above $9,466. If we get up above that, the next area I'm going to look to is around that $10,000, $9,942. We'll call it $10,000 psychological. That's what needs to happen. Just as here, do you see how we broke up through this area? That was previous resistance. We broke up through it. We want it to become support. Find support, make that next move up, try to break that previous resistance of around, we'll call it, in terms of the wicks, we made it up to around 9,615 was the high that we ended up wicking up to, and that also correlated with this area over here. But my red resistance was just due to the fact there was a lot more touches in here, so I figured that's the spot that I would put it. With trend lines or support resistance, you always want to get as many touches and get the validity of that line as strong as possible. And there's a couple other things I wanted to point out as well. Do you see here when our 50 crossed up above our 200 moving average, and we had that beautiful golden cross and we got pushed to the upside, as opposed to over here where we had that death cross, the 50 crossing down through the 200 and we got pushed down very far? These are things that you want to identify consistently when you're looking at moving average. When you have this shorter term, this 50 moving over the 200, that can be really beneficial to show that the trend is moving up. And as you can see now with this 50 and this 200, they're still pointed up. The trend is up. So this is why we should get some type of a bounce here from this $8,700 range up to around that 93. This should be a spot where we can hopefully break through that $9,500 of resistance. I think it's important that we hold this trend line, though. We don't want to start breaking down through this trend line. And what I wanted to point out here was the trend line angle. So if you go into here on TradingView and you hit trend line angle, we'll go from the bottom to the top. So roughly that's about a 41 degree angle there. So 41, 45 degree, that's the area that you would want to see hold. The steeper the trend line, the greater that break's going to be, as opposed to when it's more shallow. When it's more shallow, the trend line has a greater chance at continuously moving up, and 45 degrees isn't too steep. That's nothing too crazy. Once you get into the 55, 60 degrees, things can get pretty nuts. But this is a trend line that for right now we should continue to sustain, and we should continue to hold this trend line and continue to make a nice strong move to the upside, because the trend has changed. As we continuously looked here for 6 months, we had lower highs and lower lows that were coming in. We hit our inverted head and shoulders bottom, which typically is a bottoming pattern, and now we've been moving to the upside for over a month. So it's important that we can get into that intermediate term trend and continue to make these higher highs and higher lows, because as you can see, $95, $100 is going to be the next range, and then we can actually do this together here. We'll go up, we'll say around $10,000, right in that range. Then we could go up to about 11,000. These are just the areas I would pay the most attention to. Then we'll say 12,267, and then it would probably be up here right in that area around that $13,000 to $14,000. And this is what we have to do. You have to look at these areas as breaking through them and then finding support on them. Market needs to breathe, and then you have to break through the next one, then find support, and that's how an uptrend happens. So that's what I'm looking at here, guys. You know, I didn't want to get into too many of the indicators, anything like that. I just really wanted to look at price action, look at the flow of the trend, and right now the trend still is up. We're consolidating. We should make that next push to the upside. Remember, this is Bitcoin, this is cryptocurrency. There's a lot of manipulation, just like you can see in here, when Bitcoin went from $7,000 up to over $10,500 in the matter of 2 or 3 days. That's just the name of the game, guys. So anything can happen. But in terms of technical analysis, this trend should continue to the upside, and we'll see if we can start breaking some of those higher numbers around that 9,500, then around that 10,000, and just keep moving it to the upside. So that's what I'm looking at, guys. If you get some from this, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, share with your friends. God bless each and every one of you. Pleasure to be here with you. Take care.